know, it's always a challenge being the speaker who goes after a bunch of great panels and after a break. You've heard in the morning about the attacks and the velocity of attacks coming in Africa. You've heard about the challenges people are facing, and you heard about the human factor. 7 years ago, I knew very little about cybersecurity. In fact, I was an executive at one of the largest companies in the world, and I built my career on building businesses that created amazing client journeys, whether it was in financial services, it was in retail, or in travel. And becoming a cybersecurity executive, the first thing I realized is that cybersecurity was not built with the user in mind. It was built with technology, with compliance, with regulators in mind. So that human factor never really existed. And only in the last 5 years has the human factor really taken shape and come to cybersecurity. And when I say the human factor, I mean the customer. In the end of the day, your customer is a retail client. It could be an employee. It could be a strategic business partner. But you have to take them in mind. And if you create amazing journeys for them and have security not be a thought in their mind, wouldn't that be great? That's how we think about it. And what I wanted to share with you today is a set of principles, a set of techniques to think about. I'm not going to tell you about Uniken. Come learn about it at our booth if you want. But I really want to arm you with a way of thought and a way of thinking that I think will help you build phenomenal businesses by creating great journeys. So if you think of today, what is it that you want? The organization, whether it's a business or a government entity, wants greater share of mind, greater share of product, and if you're a business that's profit-based, you want greater share of wallet. The customer, they want experience and convenience. They don't want to worry about what your needs are, what your regulatory requirements are, what your hurdles are. You have security threats that are increasing in both velocity and type. So today, I will tell you the pandemic, the most prepared group of people for the pandemic were not health officials, they were hackers, and they were ready to pounce. They were ready to pounce on the lack of security, the lack of identity verification, and the lack of strong customer authentication. Phishing, spoofing, those were regular commodities during the day prior to pandemic. They really upped their game to a point that I think today, as a professional in this space, whether you're a business person or a security professional, I think your eyes have really opened. You have a resurgence of viruses, and these viruses are beyond COVID. They're actually computer viruses focused on this, the mobile device. The mobile device is now being attacked like it never has before. And they're viruses that are being engineered for specific apps. So we have a client where a set of hackers engineered a virus for their specific banking attack to attack them specifically. Because they knew they had vulnerabilities, they engineered something, and luckily, it was our client, they were okay. But other banks aren't okay because they're just not taking it as seriously as they should. And then you have regulatory requirements. Regulators throughout the globe and in Africa are really waking up to privacy protections, to protections on onboarding, and protections when you're doing KYC. And privacy is a key element. You know, I always say, as a consumer, what are the 3 things I look for in a business? I look for a business that's going to take me into account, a business that's going to protect my privacy, and a business that's going to protect my money. If you blow one of those 3, you will never have me as a client again. And I think that's how most consumers think, although they have short memories. But as a brand, do you really want to risk that? Think of how much money your business spends on building a brand. Think of how much your government entity spends on building, trust with a consumer. Look how easy it can be compromised here, and you don't want to do it. The threat landscape, as I said, has changed dramatically. Network compromise, device compromise, malware, insider threat, you name it, it's there. And it increases exponentially week by week. So, what does a customer want? They actually want to interact with you on any channel of their choice. It would be foolish for you not to think of protecting them on mobile, online, through the web, digital assistants, which in Africa are not as prevalent, but over time will become so, social media, which is very powerful here, and then interaction through third parties that come directly to you. So this is an omni-channel experience, and when you think of security, you think of the human factor, you need to think about every channel, not just the phone, not just the web, not the call center, not when they're physically in your business, but a holistic approach to it. If you think globally, what's changing? The phone has become the powerful tool that we all use. How many of you have a phone with you today? Just quick show of hands. Pretty much everybody, right? How many have a smartphone with them? Okay, pretty much everybody. In Africa, 50% of unique mobile users now have smartphones. But more importantly, 65% of the interaction on electronic channels is through the adoption of smartphones. You go to eat with this, you go on dates with this, you probably go to the bathroom with this. It never leaves you. This is where the heart of the interaction is coming, and this is where the consumer wants to interact with you, and this is where hackers want to come after you as well. So think of security as mobile first. Don't forget that not everybody in Africa doesn't have a mobile phone. So you do need to take into account feature phones, but understand that that migration is going to accelerate. 3 years ago in Mexico, they were adoption statistics like this. But then Mexico businesses did something unique. They started subsidizing smartphone purchases because they wanted to accelerate interaction and adoption and ultimately profitability. And today, smartphone adoption is through the charts at a level nobody ever expected. And I think if I had to look forward 3 years, you're going to get the same result in Africa. In 3 years, when we're back here, smartphone adoption will probably be somewhere between 72 and 78%, and the interaction level will probably be even much higher. I think I went backwards, sorry. So what do you do as a business person, as a security professional? So the first thing you do, and it may sound bizarre when you're not in banking, you're not in payments, when you're not in government, to say, I want to do digital identity verification. I actually want to look at a government document, I want to compare that, take an image off that document, compare it to a liveness image, and verify my customer. Now, why would I want to do that if I'm a retail business? Guess what? It puts a high bar for fraudsters. You know, to create a synthetic identity for creating fraud, to have a false government document, and then do a facial biometric image that can then be compared downstream sets a very high bar. For the little price that pays, I think it's a very powerful tool. And if you're in banking, you're in payments, in healthcare, in government services, it's an absolute imperative, and it's an imperative you do it on mobile channels. You want to have intelligent mobile threat defense. So having a mobile app is great. Verifying the identity of that individual is great. But if that app is subject to viruses, malware, if that phone has been jailbroken or rooted, or if that person is interacting through a malicious Wi-Fi, do you really want them to connect to your network? So you need to have that capability built in moving forward. I was at a conference in Uganda about 10 weeks ago, all banking executives. So an interesting thing, best hotel in Uganda. I start to do a live demo on stage, and the first thing my app detects is the Wi-Fi in the hotel has actually been corrupted. And the hotel general manager is sitting there, and he goes, not possible. And I said, absolutely possible. I'm sure what somebody did is the following with a $99 device. And guess what? That's exactly what happened. All of those banking executives were not using a VPN. Their apps did not have endpoint threat protection. So they were vulnerable. It was a huge wake-up call to them. Corrupting a device is very easy. And if you're in the mobile business, if you're in the electronic channel business, mobile, it's a very easy solution for you. So think about it, deploy it. Use multi-factor authentication. 2FA is great, MFA is better. And MFA could be as simple as an OTP code, an SMS code, but that's really 2FA. You want something beyond that, but you want it invisible to the customer. That's the very powerful thing. You know, I'll put in a little commercial for Uniken. So the heart of our technology is invisible multi-factor authentication. It's 7 layers of different factors that get verified, completely invisible to the customer. They don't even know they're doing it, and it's passwordless. So you've actually removed the human factor, you've created a natural interaction, and you've done it with multi-factor authentication. This changes the bar for hackers, it changes the bar for authentication, it changes the bar in security, and it's very inexpensive to do. There's not a single person in this room that should have an excuse for not deploying multi-factor authentication. Next, make sure that you're using a man-in-the-middle proof secure channel to communicate with your network. These are things that are what I call the plumbing of the world. It's plumbing. As business people, you may not pay attention to it. As security people, you may think, you know what, I've got TLS, it's good enough. Well, what level of TLS do you have? Do you have another channel within that? Depending on the business you're in, you may want to deploy something that's at the higher end of the scale because it is easy to get a man in the middle. And for layman's term, what is that? It means if you're about to shake somebody's hand, somebody steps in the middle of you but helps you put the hand together, but they're in between that. That's what the equivalent of a man-in-the-middle proof channel is there's nobody in the middle. And then lastly, protect yourself in a way that you can have protection in court. So if you use omni-channel authentication, make sure that you can do transaction signing, and transaction signing that has non-repudiation in a court of law. There's nothing worse than having a great client say, I didn't do this, when they did, and going through tens of thousands of dollars and trying to figure out if they did or didn't, and then going to court. If you have transaction signing, it's actually a 2-second look. And you can share that with the client in a non-embarrassing way and deliver it in a powerful way. So, you know, should you go do this? Absolutely. Should you think about this as individual steps? Probably not. You know, hackers love individual steps. Incrementalism is a hacker's favorite thing. So think about the core of the security model. You know, if I were starting a new business today, the core of my security model would be intelligent threat defense, multi-factor authentication, digital signing. Absolutely. Those 3 things should be the core. If I'm in a high sensitivity business, I absolutely want to do digital identity verification. I want to have a layer of security beyond TLS. You could deploy that. And the one thing that I didn't dwell on is biometrics. Biometrics in the pandemic has changed the equation for the user. You know, going passwordless you can do. Going passwordless with biometrics is a game changer. Account takeover, insider threats all go away with these kinds of deployments of biometrics. And I don't mean biometrics as in what's on device in an Apple or Google or a Huawei device. I mean a server-side biometric that you deploy in a selective way to prevent the most egregious of compromises. But you do it in a human way where your client, your partner, your employee doesn't have to do anything onerous other than lift up the phone and think they're taking a selfie and you're verifying them in a very powerful way. Those are the keys to success, I think, in creating journeys. So what kind of journeys do you get? So if you can do this, I think you will see phenomenal levels of satisfaction. You know, when I first got into this business, I was like, as a business person, I'm like, well, of course I want statistics like this. As I got into the heart of it, it's really hard to get these kinds of numbers. But if you do it right, these are actually the numbers you'll see every day. So what should things really look like? Imagine downloading an app, getting my name and my email or my phone number, and then asking to scan a government document. Don't ask me which country, don't ask me which document, just scan the document, scan your face, boom, you're done. Have something that's that smart. that can detect the document, can detect the country, detect the security features. If you want to do eKYC because you're in banking, do it instantly, use a bureau, and then you've onboarded the client. You can do this in less than 90 seconds. Think about it. 90 seconds to have a verified identity and to create a journey with trust from day one. So zero trust architecture, add zero trust onboarding to that architecture. Now that you have it, go passwordless. Eliminate all of the legacy authentication channels. You don't need cell phone identifiers. You don't need generated OTP codes. You don't need behavioral biometrics. You don't need CAPTCHA. You don't need any of this. If you deploy an architecture model like we talked about, you're going to get natural, consistent, zero friction interaction. Think about that. All I do is I take my phone out, I open the app, I may have to show my face, that's it. And I've actually done all of the security that we've talked about in that little instance. No passwords ever to remember, no credential compromise to worry about, no network compromise to be concerned on the mobile device coming in with a payload that's dangerous. Think of how powerful that would be to your business or your government entity. Give them the capabilities that they want. Oh, did you guys take away my screen? You did. Okay. Give them what they're looking for and the capabilities they want. So Amazon, Google, and Uber have destroyed the capability of businesses to compete on a level playing field. You know why? Because I can buy anything I want on any channel, 24/7, 365 on Amazon. I can look up any piece of information I want anywhere in the world on any obscure topic from Google. And I can request a ride from Uber to take me from point A to point B with a push of a button. So consumers have become used to, I can get whatever I want on any channel I want instantaneously. No matter what business we compete in, that's the mindset we compete in. So think about it. Full service banking, government services, travel and hospitality, a basic service. They want to work with you on every channel with that level of efficiency and ease. That's what a great journey is. And you have to think of building those journeys, taking into account that humans don't want to do work. They don't want to do your job for you. I don't want to worry about security for you. I don't want to enter in multiple things for you. I don't want to have to do other things. You should do it for me. And the more you do it, the more I'm going to do business with you. And if you do this well, you know what? You can now deliver targeted offers to clients, targeted information when they need it. Because when you have great security, you don't worry about fraud, you don't worry about compromise, you can actually do a lot more on mobile than you ever imagined. And that client will want to work with you because you're easy to work with. So look for the world forward. And I would say not just imagine, but think of delivering zero trust, zero fraud, zero compromise, increased satisfaction, bigger share of wallet, bigger share of product, and an ROI that's fast. If you do this really well, you're not talking ROIs of 18 months, 9 months. You're talking 3 to 6 months. That's the payoff in hard dollars, not funny money, not other things. Security, innovation actually pay off. And as security professionals, that's the mindset you need to have. Build amazing journeys, generate great ROI, not be a barrier to success for a business, but an enabler of success. And that's the key. So thank you very much. I think I have a minute left. If there's any questions, happy to do so. Otherwise, I can answer a little later in the other room. But thank you, and have a great day.
Actually, Mr. Hold that applause for later. I want us to get a few questions, just 2 questions, because he has just given a very interesting conversation here. I don't know if you have any 2 questions only from the floor, and then we proceed. Do you have any? And of course, you can prepare the mic. Do you have any question?
They're still kind of digesting it all.
Yeah,
so they can come see me later.
Yeah, you know, biologically, food takes time for digesting. Let it keep digesting. We have a question there. Yeah, Harry with the mic. Do you have another? I said only two. If there is none, you've got 5 seconds to make up your mind. 4, 3. Well,
Should we take the first one?
where's the other question? Wherever
one
it
in the
is,
back
you will
and
show
there's one
me.
over
Let's take that question first, and then we'll come there.
Okay, thank you. I'm Henry. I have around 2 questions within the technology that you've explained. One of them is what happens to the device that has been attached to this technology at the in the event that the device is to be either replaced with another one or it gets lost? What maybe mitigations do you have around that? The second one, I would be excited to know what you are doing around one fear that we have from a human perspective. If it's my thumbprint, what if I'm threatened and somebody cuts off that my thumb? Can they do something with the device and the like?
Okay, so the first question is, you have this great technology, what happens if the phone gets compromised, right? So I'll speak for the Uniken technology. The heart of our technology is a private key pair enabled by the validation of 7 factors, including a biometric. If you lose your device, the beauty of our technology is you can enroll a new device and terminate the first device, or you can call the business and say, I've lost my device, and they terminate the device because you have a half of a key on a phone and the other half of the key the business has, they just terminate one. So it's like tearing a banknote in half. You just take a half a note and you throw it away. That note will never be valid again. So that's the first question. The second question is, what happens if there's duress, right? And you're using a biometric, right? So there is no answer for duress in a biometric other than, what if I employed behavioral biometrics, which changes the way I do things? But an interesting thing in behavioral biometrics, you have to learn the behavior in order to biometrics. And I used to think of behavioral biometrics as the greatest thing on earth until I realized it takes 30, 40 interactions to develop that behavioral template. And that behavioral template is in your normal circumstance. So I don't know about you, but I don't want to wait 30 or 40 times before you can trust me. I want trust day one. The second thing is, when I'm on vacation, I may behave a little differently than when I'm at work, and I may have the phone, so that it generates a little bit of false positives. But outside of behavioral biometrics, there really is no solution for duress other than, there are things you can do, and depending on the type of business you're in, there are some things that we suggest our clients do for certain user groups and certain user populations. And it's not something I'd reveal in a public setting. I'd have to have an NDA with you, but there are a few things you can do. But in general, duress is not something you can ever take into in today's world. I think as compute continues to get more powerful and as analytics become more powerful, you can do something on the behavioral side, but you're actually going to delve into a privacy issue that when you realize what the implications are, most of us as consumers will never agree to let you do that.
Wow. Let's appreciate that. A very... Yes, final question.
Thank you. Actually, my first question you've answered, but to build on that, nowadays, I think everyone has multiple devices. You have an Android phone, you have
I'm having
iPhone.
trouble hearing you, I'm sorry.
Sorry. So nowadays, I think most of the people in the business have got multiple devices. You have an iPhone, you have an Android device, you have a Windows laptop or a Mac. Does your solution allow multiple registration on multiple devices for ease of work? Because you might have this device on this setting, and another setting you have another device. The other thing is, you might find those who work in different locations might have 2 or 3 sets of government identity documents. You have, you'd say, your passport or your residence permit issued on one country, and another country you have got another set of documents. If I register on one, am I going to be to appear as a fraudster or an imposter using the other set of documents? Yeah,
Sure.
Thank you.
So the first question is, what if I have multiple devices, right? If you know, what do you do? So in general, a really good technology should be able to support multiple devices without creating a single point of failure. The Uniken technology, because it's private key, our private keys are unique to user, on device, on app to remote host. So every device that uses our technology is unique to the app, the user, the biometric, and the remote host. So we have a client who has a CFO who loses his phone literally every 2 weeks. And the CIO hated this because imagine a CFO losing a device. He has to send somebody to change all of the logins, all the credentials on all the devices that CFO had. They implemented our technology, and the secretary has a stack of phones in her drawer, and he comes back, he says, you know, Betty, I lost my phone today. She goes, no problem, boss. Here, let me go in, deactivate your phone. Here's a new phone, ready to go. Just put your face up, it'll activate, and you're all done. And that's what we call really best in class. We think that's the Uniken technology. Your second question is, what about government documents and government identities? So if I'm verifying your identity in Kenya, but you also happen to be a resident in the UAE, and you're doing business at the UAE, you can actually use multiple identity documents even for the same business in different countries. So that's a business decision that the entity would have to recognize. Remember, you don't want your security provider to have any of this personal data. So we encourage every client, whether they work with us or not, your provider should be able to provide you a solution where there's no data with the security company. It all resides with you and your business. So you easily meet government regulations. The sanctity and privacy of that individual resides with you and not with a third party. And you should have flexibility built in. So the specific example that you have, we do have several clients that do business in multiple geographies and allow accounts in multiple geographies, and they use the local identity document to enroll. So hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you.
But the last thing I'll leave you with is privacy. You know, as a business person, as a security person, you know, I encourage all of you to think of when you design security to take that human factor, but that human need and desire for privacy. It's one of the few things that we have left that we want to protect. And a business that goes and makes it a part of their DNA in the long run will succeed. So when you design security that maintains privacy, and privacy within your organization, and not leaking it to another business partner, because that's the only way you can deploy. Today, you should be able to deploy, whether it's in SaaS, in managed service, or on-prem, with the ability for your partner not to see any of your data. And if they can't give you that, I would tell you, look for another partner. So thank you very much. We're around if you guys want to chat later. Have a great conference.
Thank you. Wow.
Thank you. All right.
No. Give me something bigger than that. Something better than that, yeah?
He was actually going to go run and find out how he implements the technology.
Let's give them one more round of applause.